First of all, let's create some space by clicking and dragging. So here it is. And it's under General. So I'll just click on the right arrow here. And I'll right click and do a create. So what we have now is we can create an analysis process. And these icons here are somehow in German, but we'll bear with it and do it nevertheless. So I'm going to click here on this data source, this one data source. So data source description. These are not that important actually. I would say that the most important things are the model names, because then there come like the huge stacks where you have to find it from. This data source is just inside our model. So now I'm going to have to choose the info provider. Let's actually go and look for it. So it should be Tyson Frozen Foods. The way it goes is it's actually going through the alphabet twice. So the letter T is already somewhere up here. Let me just try to find it. So it's on the second time around. Okay, here it is. Tyson FF. So you can just really dig around in this set of info cubes. FF on the keyboard, from the keyboard. So it's actually the same if you know the name so well. Okay, let's do field selection. Now from the fields, so there are the available characteristics and the key figures. From the characteristics, we're going to be selecting Kunwe customer and clicking on left. The next thing is here from key figures, we'll take VV102, configured it, and let's click OK. The next thing we want to do is we want to take the ABC, which is the ABC analysis, put it next to it, and click and drag like an arrow from between the two. Then we want to take a file and write everything to a comma-separated file. So here it is. The description is again not important. It's within like on our canvas. It doesn't get complicated yet, so we'll just do a DT file 1 here. It's going to be stored on our client workstation. Now I'm doing basically browsing, and I'm placing it on the desktop, and I'm naming it ABC Model 1. Write mode, create again and overwrite if necessary. That's what I've chosen. Insert the header row, so we'll know what it's about. And on CSV properties, you have to separate separator to change that from semicolon to a comma, because then Excel will automatically open it up well. And now we're done. So the file is here. We're clicking and dragging, putting it here, putting an arrow between the two. And now the last thing to do is to configure this ABC analysis itself. So I'm right-clicking on it. There's a bunch of options. I'm choosing properties to configure it. Now on ABC analysis, we'll have to now specify which model we're using. So what we do is we can just right now write this winner ABC model. That's all we have to do. We don't have to surf around every time because we remember the name we gave it. Now we're going to need the ABC class that it calculates, but let's see what else are the fields that are offered. So what would be interesting would be this cumulated key figure percentage. So because this one will show us ranking position, because they're actually going to be ordered from the most important client, so to say, to the least important client anyways. And there are a bunch of other things we could have chosen here, but these are not that important. Now, lastly, we'll click on this map input field, and it has already taken from our data source the Kunve and BV102 and mapped it together with our model. So this is all good. We didn't have to push any button to get it to match things because it's already been done. Now we're clicking OK. So it's been quite easy. And next thing is we're gonna run the model. In order to run the model, we're gonna click again on this activation icon. It actually asks for the analysis process name. So since it's a process, we're going to do winter ABC process 1 and save it under the set of all the different options of processes. And now we've already gotten through with activation, and we're going to click on execute. So this will do the trick. And I'm going to pause it here because execution takes some time. Come back when everything's done. So now it's ready, and it wants me to grant access to the file that I've chosen. So I'll do remember my decision and allow the access every time around. And here are the results. So everything was a success. Now we can switch to Microsoft Excel and open up this CSV file. And here we are. Now in the first column we have this Kunwes. So this is the client's number. It's unique every time. In the second column, we actually turn out to have the gross. So it's the gross sales, so to say. So the highest intensity business client for us has made transactions in the amount of $134 million. The second one, $125 million. Then we have the class that it has classified it as. So these are the A class, so it's the important ones. And we also have something called a cumulative percentage. So the first client is like 0.6%, and the first and the second together are 1.18%. So it's slightly less, somewhere like 0.57% of all the sales. Let's look into it a bit deeper, but for now, do such a thing. But I'm gonna go with other here. This is the border between the two classification classes. So we can see that the first 1,713, the first row was not used, companies form 80% of our sales. And let's see how many companies are there altogether. There are 19,000. So, sorry, it's even more, 19,785. So we can see that really it's even more like a 90%, 10% rule. That 10% of companies give us 80%. This time it's a bit fuzzy. It's that 10% of companies give us 80% of revenue. So we should have like rerun it again to get like more purely out a 90-10 rule or something of kind. 10% of revenue is left for the last 80% of companies.